Hello everybody, Captain Kevin, and don't forget that it's PokerPioltKH on YouTube. Welcome to the last in a series of flights that I call Rocky Mountain Air. Today, from Hope to Vancouver, an early morning departure out of Hope. Sun just rising in the east. Isn't that something beautiful? Grass strip in Hope. Let's get that engine started. All right, we have an engine. Taxi out for the departure on the runway towards the east this morning to enjoy the sunrise. Let's see how we get on. It's a grass strip here in Hope, so only the smallest of aircraft, helicopters for example, can and would use it. That's our direction of flight ultimately, and we'll turn around and take off towards the east. And away we go. Thrust is up, we have flaps. Keep it straight. Okay, 55, 60 knots and we'll be able to fly. Speed's increasing nicely. Pull that nose up. Here we go. And we break ground. Airborne. Hold the angle. Gear up. There they go. Flaps up. Keeping it straight. That sun is just about to poke through that mountain. Here we go, left turn heading westbound. Below us, the beautiful Fraser River, the Fraser River Valley. It's going to widen out into a beautiful valley as it makes its way towards its delta on the Pacific Ocean. If the CP Railway, remember we were flying this Canadian Pacific Railway all the way from Calgary now to Vancouver. The Canadian Pacific Railway below us on the right hand side at the moment as we go west. As we fly this Canadian Pacific Railway, you'll find that this widens out into a nice wide open river valley. Should be pretty easy. Town of Floods goes by. So yeah, I don't think they had any difficulty building the railway way back in the 1880s, 1890s through this section. Ruby Creek going by. We've sped this film up to the 5 times original speed. And as we go through here, we're going to see a series of cities, prosperous cities in the modern Canada. Another one called Laidlaw. Off to the right, the high mountains of British Columbia. Way off to the left would be the high mountains of Washington State, Mount Baker, in fact, off towards the left, the highest one in this whole northwestern area. You can see the river now spreading out into a wide river with the Trans-Canada Highway winding along on the left. Sun's still trying to peek up above the mountains, and when it does so, it'll be a nice sunny day in the southwest of British Columbia. See some sunlight up ahead. We're going to get that soon. Well off to our right is the Harrison Lake, large lake in the mountains off the right wingtip, and on the southernmost part of the lake is Harrison Hot Springs. Nice hotel there. Another Canadian Pacific Railway hotel, of which there are many on this particular route. There's the signage for Harrison Hot Springs off the right wingtip. Next city brings a musical treat. Have a listen carefully for the musical treat I have for you. One of my favorite rock and roll bands. Yes, the city of Chilliwack and a band to go with it. Now as we continue along the Fraser River Valley, you can see a mountain up ahead, right there, right ahead of us. That's the Abbotsford area. Abbotsford is actually to the left of the mountain. We'll follow it to the left as well. That, I believe, is the Canadian Pacific Railway underneath going that direction. Yes, indeedy. Now, Abbotsford, I mentioned in specifics because in 1973, when I was a young pilot, that company that I mentioned back on video flight number 7 or so, the one that went into Kamloops, I talked about Conair Aviation when I was a young pilot in 1973, fighting forest fires in British Columbia. I was a bird dog pilot directing tankers where to drop their loads of fire retardant. And that company, Conair, had its home base here in Abbotsford, British Columbia. It's out of Abbotsford, then we would disperse to whatever tanker base we were sent to for whatever period of time, sometimes a week, sometimes a month, depending on the fires of the season. I've got 1,000 feet above sea level. And just above the right wingtip, you can see a flashing white light. I think that's the rabbit lights of a runway at Abbotsford Airport. Well, let's see when we get closer, but I think that's the Abbotsford Airport. Ah, yeah. There's the city of Abbotsford below us. And let's fly right over that airport at low level. Bring back some memories from 1973, 1974. We won't land on this particular pass, we'll fly over. Just a flyby. With permission from air traffic control, from Microsoft Flight Simulator at least. One nice long runway, a short runway. Off the right wingtip was where the tanker base at Abbotsford was, and where my start in fire protection happened. Thank you, Abbotsford. Westward we go, westward ho, to the delta of the Fraser River where it empties into the Pacific Ocean. Or the Straits of Juan de Fuca, if I wanted to be more exact, I presume, as it's the water between Vancouver and Vancouver Island and the Victoria area. But indeed, I think it's the Pacific Ocean. Mr. Fraser would have thought it was the Pacific Ocean back in 1850s or just before. 1818, I think, he first discovered the area. Signpost in the sky says Fort Langley's up ahead. That's the airport at Langley, British Columbia. And now there's a city there as well, right on the Fraser. Sky's starting to cloud over a little bit in the afternoon after the sun came up. We'll stay low level below that. I'm at 2,000 feet at the moment. As you can see, very flat land now. Excellent for agriculture. Temperature is moderate. Although it's Canada, in Vancouver area, they never get really cold like we do in the east. So they're longer growing season, great for vegetables in the Fraser Valley. Pit meadows going by. As we continue westbound. There's the railway below us, and we're continuing westbound above the Thompson River. Sorry, above the Fraser River. If you look above my left wingtip, off in the very distance on the horizon, you can see some lights. UFOs? They might look like the UFOs. They're aircraft landing in Vancouver with their lights on. So that indicates to me where the Vancouver airport is. Lots of bridges now going across the Fraser River in this highly populated area of Vancouver and its suburbs. Suburb here is Surrey. These are cities in their own right, but technically I think they're just bedroom communities of Vancouver. Sorry, Surrey, no offense. New Westminster, just to the east of Vancouver itself. As we cross the river here in the direction of the airport, we'll be crossing into the city of Richmond, British Columbia, south of the Vancouver city centre, and essentially home for the Vancouver International Airport. You can see how the river is starting to split, forming the delta, off to the left, off the screen to the left, off to the right, as we fly over Richmond and the Fraser empties into the Pacific Ocean. The island where the Vancouver airport is actually located is called Sea Island. You can see it is indeed an island by itself, and then this massive international airport. Another company I worked for but in the 80s and the 90s was Canadian Airlines, and we had our home head office here in Vancouver. I worked out of Toronto mostly, but occasionally out of Vancouver. CYVR. That's the end of the Fraser River tour. Let's turn to the north. Let's take a look at Vancouver City Centre. Now, the Canadian Pacific Railway did also deviate a little earlier off the river and went right downtown towards Vancouver. That was the ultimate destination of Canadian Pacific Railway, so they could deliver all of their raw materials from all the places in the east. Things like sulfur, wheat, lumber. Flying over Kitsilano, just off Vancouver City Centre. There's Vancouver City Centre straight ahead. Granville Island, named after the original founder of Vancouver. Now, yeah, Lord Vancouver. Grassy Jack, Mr. Granville, all were involved in the formation. Look, a cruise ship down below in the harbour. I think we'll go down and land by that cruise ship. But first, over the harbour. There's some yellow sulfur on the north shore if you want to see that just in front of the nose of the aircraft. That comes from the Alberta tar sands in Fort McMurray. And it gathers there to be shipped overseas to be used ultimately as fertilizer. Lions Gate Bridge, famously straight ahead, and the Stanley Park, that lovely green area. Fly over Stanley Park, we'll fly over City Centre. And let's start thinking about setting up for landing. No gear this time, we're landing on water, so I made sure the gear is up. But we'll need some flaps as we come in, and let's land beside the cruise ship. Wow, beautiful, still glassy water for us today. Hard to judge the height, but the ship will help me judge my height. Got the flaps down, reducing the power. Canada Place Cruise Terminal off the left wingtip. There we are. And we're getting closer. Power off, flaps down, touchdown. Well, welcome to Vancouver. In fact, Vancouver Harbour. Wow, look at this. What is that off to the right? That's supposed to be docks and places to put my aircraft. Microsoft Flight Simulator, you've done it again. Artificial intelligence, not quite right on the docks. So let's just pull it up against the shoreline. And there we are. Thank you for flying Rocky Mountain Air. A series of 9 flights all the way from Calgary to Vancouver. This one from Hope to Vancouver. I hope you've enjoyed this series as much as I have producing it. Captain Kevin, YouTube, you'll find me as PokerPioltKH.